But what looking healthy to me looks like for myself certainly looks different than my clients. I've learned that over my 21 years of practice, that it's really important that we, at each juncture in our lives, you know, understand what we value in terms of good health at that moment. So even from person to person, it's going to change, but also within one lifetime for one person, it's certainly going to change throughout the years for sure. When I was younger, looking healthy um, meant something different than it does now, that's for sure.
Craft Your Life is a radio show for the tenacious, the bold, and those who refuse to settle for mediocrity. We bring together visionaries, game changers, and relentless go-getters who are crafting their lives, businesses, and relations in pursuit of excellence. If you are ready to shatter limits, embrace the amazing, and live life on your own terms, this show is for you. Each episode delivers actionable insights, inspiring stories, and unfiltered conversations that will ignite your drive to win a life worth dying for. Tune in and get ready to live viciously. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Craft Your Life radio show. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn. Today, I'm joined by Dr. April Schulte-Barclay. She's a pioneer in integrative medicine and the founder of Healing Horizons Integrated Health Solutions here in Grand Junction, Colorado. With over 4,000 plus hours of academic training and deep expertise in Oriental medicine, Dr. Schulte has spent the last 2 decades blending the best of Eastern and Western approaches to health. She's not just helping people heal, she's empowering us to take control of our health journeys. If you care about wholeness, healing, and what it really means to live well, this one's for you. Tune in. April, thank you so much for joining.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really blessed to be here.
Yes. I'm really excited for this conversation. I love health and I keep learning more and more about it. And so I would just love to open up and have you better define what integrative health really means. When we say integrative medicine, what does
Right.
that
What
mean
does
to
that
you?
mean? Certainly. When I think about integrative medicine, it may mean something different to me than it does to others. To me, what it means is actually integrating care, and we can talk about that in several different ways. Sort of in the whole systems approach when it comes to our healthcare, integrative care may mean using sort of the best of what Western medicine may have to offer for each unique and individual patient, combined with different complementary modalities, which could include things like acupuncture, chiropractic, massage, even actual an understanding of nutrition and how that plays a role in the body. Other modalities like homeopathy and then energy practices, which really truly everything is energy, but Reiki and some other things like that, bringing them all together in the best way possible for each patient. Because certainly each and every client, each and every one of us has different needs and different imbalances. And what looking whole looks like for me will look different. What looking whole looks like for you. And so truly integrating like the best of different modalities is one way to look at it. However, another way to really look at it is having a deeper understanding that our bodies themselves are integrated. Where I tend to see with our Western thinking, our Western medicine, more allopathic thinking, that maybe, we consider the thyroid and we only are considering the thyroid. We may not be noticing how our digestion, our emotional and spiritual health, our adrenals, our musculoskeletal system even can play a role in our thyroid health. So in that way, we're actually integrating truly mind, body, spirit, our emotional, mental, physical health together as one.
I have so many questions, but thank you for that intro. This is a loaded question, but I'm so curious how you define good health. Like that's got to be relative to individuals, I would imagine, but
That's such a great question. And I would think that that answer is going to be different from person to person because we are individual. What do we value most? Some of us value being active and out in the world and out in nature. Others of us value really cultivating, being home and being homemakers, and others cultivate value from being like the best athlete they can, and of course we can have you know values from each of those and more. But what looking healthy to me looks like for myself certainly looks different than my clients. I've learned that over my 21 years of practice, that it's really important that we, at each juncture in our lives, you know, understand what we value in terms of good health at that moment. So even from person to person, it's going to change, but also within one lifetime for one person, it's certainly going to change throughout the years for sure. When I was younger, looking healthy um, meant something different than it does now. That's for sure.
Yeah, and there's also layers to health with I mean, I think of physical, I think emotional, I think mental, I mean, if we're talking holistic, there's ultimate layers, and what I've noticed is if I don't have a healthy mindset, if my mental health is off, if for some reason and we can go anywhere with this, but if for some reason, like I'm beating myself up inside, then that's going to impact my body's health. I'm not going to go work out or be cognizant of what I'm eating as much.
Such a good point. And the fact that you are even considering how your emotional health will be impacting your physical health is just so great. So good job with that. We can, in my world, I'll say that, we actually never can separate our emotions from our physical health ever. Um, Certainly, a majority of our symptoms on the physical level are emotionally based.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
And then even, for having, like you mentioned, beating yourself up, it's really helpful to dive deeper into that sometimes when we're ready for that kind of work. What is serving me by sort of beating myself up today? What is actually serving, what's underneath that? And that's where behavioral health and really understanding our spiritual values comes into a strong play with our health picture. And
Yes.
when clients come to see me, some people are ready to hear that, some people aren't, and that's okay. It's really about meeting ourselves where we are in that moment and then having practitioners around us who can do the same.
Yes. Yes. Fully agree. It's beautiful. When you were talking about integrative medicine and giving us a rundown in there, you talked about energy and mentioned that everything's energy and there is even specific practitioners that work with energy. Reiki is one of them. Um, can you open that up a little bit more? And what I'm looking for is some of the practical pieces, because I would imagine some listeners can hear that and be like, okay, energy, a bunch of woo. How do we bring
Right.
this to the ground?
Right. Such a great question. And I'll tell you, when I first started studying medicine, I didn't realize how much emotions played a role in our health. And then as I've been practicing, I realized our emotions are energy and we are energy. And at the end of the day, it does sound sort of woo. It does sound sort of woo, but it's actually even science now, starting to show us it's actually not woo at all. It's just true. And so to answer your question about which therapies are more energetically based, the truth is all of them are energy based. Every single one of them. There's not one that's more solid than the next, because as we learn, what is solid matter? It's nothing but a whole bunch of space, really. And so,
Mhm.
and
It's
within
true.
that is energy that's transferred, right? And so, um, it's taken me this long to realize that literally even our conversation right now is an exchange of energy. And it's going to hopefully, for people who are ready, it will make a nice change for their day and maybe moving on in their lives. And some people aren't going to be ready for it, and it's okay. Everything has its own time and place. And I used to think of things like Reiki and long distance healing and things like that as more energetic and definitely more on the woo. Definitely more on the woo. Um, but the truth be told, even when we touch someone's body through massage or chiropractic or even acupuncture needles, that too is energy medicine.
Yes.
And when we take medicines, when we take herbs, when we take food in, when we take drink in, when we take pharmaceutical medications, that also is energy medicine.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that point up. Like the Western, the symbol of Western medicine to me is the pill. And if we're taking a pill, that is an energetic intake with a energetic response.
It is. And certainly, we have been conditioned, if you will, to really believe that by taking pharmaceutical medication, we're going to get all the answers and it's sort of going to solve our needs in that moment. But at the end of the day, you are taking in something energy. It is changing something physiologically in your body. But what else is it changing? And is it really asking your body to, and asking you to look within and see what really needs to be healed? Probably not.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, a lot of strong marketing with that play.
There is. I'm not saying that they don't have a role because they do.
That's right.
Sometimes there's exactly what we need. I talk a lot about how healing happens when the nervous system is relaxed. When
Mm.
we literally create space for healing when our nervous system is relaxed. And I would argue some of my practitioners and my colleagues would argue with me on this, but let's say I have someone come in and they've just herniated their disc and they're excruciating pain, excruciating pain. Certainly, I have different acupuncture points and things like that to calm things down. But sometimes we do need a painkiller because that's when at least the nervous system can let down enough to like relax enough to even take a deep breath. And breathing deeply is important for healing. And when you've herniated your disc, it's challenging to take a deep breath. And so, however, we can create space in the system, sometimes temporarily, we can use tools that are be within the realm of complementary medicine or within the realm of more allopathic medicine. The point is, each one has its role and place when appropriate for each person at different times.
Yeah, I love that, and it is about having a wide toolkit with a wide selection to be able to and also the mastery around each tool, right? To be able to understand the use and the time. And I think from my perspective, it seems that folks can get caught up in thinking that everything's a nail and you're just grabbing the one tool that you know and you go after it. Um, and that's a little bit shortchanging the potential power, really.
Using that analogy, I've never seen a house built with one nail
Totally.
either.
Totally. Yeah. I've never installed a garage door with one tool.
That's right.
Takes a few. When you're referencing this power of the body to heal, where's that coming from? What are some real world examples that you've seen?
Okay, very great question again. Our bodies definitely know how to heal themselves, and where it's coming from is my personal experience with my own health, and then which really formed the basis for me as a practitioner anyway, my own personal health story. And then watching so many of my clients heal over time, sometimes the body could use just a little nudge to get its innate healing response. Probably the phrase itself has been more strongly developed in me in the last 4 or 5 years because we learned about something called the innate immune system, where, our immune system is 99% innate, meaning that our immune system knows how to heal itself 99% of the time. Maybe only 1% of the time do we have something called acquired immunity, where we really need help from the outside to help our immune systems. And I've seen it time and time again with lots of things from the common, everyday cold or the flu to, actual injuries or gouges in the leg, where the body certainly, you can watch the body heal itself in real time without outside intervention. And what I've noticed we're able to do within my practice is just help nudge the system along. And, each person might benefit from a different nudging. It could be on a mental, emotional level, or it could be physical, maybe a chiropractic adjustment, or it could be with mental health, where we really are looking back at our beliefs and understanding our belief patterns and how that shapes our reality in today's world with our health. Um, but I've just seen it time and time. That's where my phrase innate healing comes from. And, you know, a really cool analogy. I recently became a beekeeper, which is so random. I never in my life thought I would be a beekeeper, but
It's
I
amazing.
really became addicted to watching these bee videos, with my kids, and we thought and next thing you know, I've ordered all the things to become a beekeeper, and it is so fun to watch those bees because they also have innate intelligence, and you can really watch them put together their hive and work with the environment and the world around them to create their hive and eventually honey. And you can see the innate intelligence in that. And to me, that's a reflection of what our bodies do. We have that innate healing ability.
Hmm. So what gets in the way?
I was talking about those belief patterns, something I've been really focusing on a lot for myself lately.
Mhm.
But truly, we do develop beliefs as well, at least from when we're born. Um, Probably before then, we start developing our belief patterns based on our experiences. And that's what usually gets in our way, honestly, because those belief patterns, turn into emotions that, we can become addicted to our emotions. Emotions are chemicals that rush through the body, cascade through the body. And so much like a drug addiction or a shopping addiction or a food addiction or eating disorder addiction, we also can get addicted to our emotions, and those are based in belief patterns. So, my answer today would be what usually gets in the way is belief patterns. Certainly, we can also look at the environment and toxicities and pollutions and different heavy metal exposures and so on that also can get in the way. But that being said, I always use the analogy with my clients of a teeter totter. If you're sitting on one side of the teeter totter, you know, and you have your stressors, if you will, on the other side. The stressors might become like belief patterns, emotions, physical stressors, environmental stressors, and then hormones or something. And then you stub your toe, and then it tips you over into an imbalance and tips you into a disease pattern.
Hmm.
So our goal then is to, yeah, identify what's on this side. What are our stressors that are impacting our system, but how can we strengthen us on this side so that it would take a lot more to tip us over? Um, so that would mean strengthening our immune system with certain herbs and eating well and not having sugar um, and then receiving care for ourselves, receiving treatments like acupuncture, massage, so on, behavioral health, exercise, all the things that we know strengthen us on this side of the teeter totter. We want to focus on that.
Beautiful. I love that analogy of the teeter-totter, and for those that are listening audio style, April is shifting her hands, and on one side is a bunch of stressors, and that can actually tip us over, and so I've seen this. I literally just experienced this, April, where I was out in a garage and I made a silly move. It wasn't a big move, it was a silly move, and it threw my back.
Mm.
And in that moment, I was like, "Okay, this is a painful and B, like, highly inconvenient. C, this is a stupid move that made this thing throw." But what you
Right.
just explained in that tipping, like, there was stress, there was, maybe a little sleep deprivation, there was X, right? It
Absolutely.
it lifted that teeter-totter so that it was a toe stub. It was a movement that just the body was like, "Well, we're stopping."
We're done now. Yeah. And in the moment you think, okay, how could that simple move create such a problem? And did you have an emotion, if you don't mind me asking, what emotion you experienced when you hurt your back in that moment?
Oh, this opened up another 3 weeks of journey, and it resolved this past weekend to a degree. I think we're a bunch of onions and we keep delayering,
Yes.
right?
All
So I'm
right.
like, "Okay, that layer's, like, shedded. What's next?" But out of the gate and I started doing this, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. Anytime I would have, a pain, I would really start talking to it. And I'm like, well, what are you doing here? Like, what's the lesson? And in the moment, it was the end of February and I was trying to close out jobs and I was pushing for revenue and sales. And I was like, I got to do this. And what that was telling me, I believe, was, hey, you can't do this alone. It's not even yours to carry alone. You got to let other people in on this. And so it was a pause of like, okay, I just need to become a better leader, really.
Hey everybody, this is Luke from Cooler Garage Doors. Just want to take a quick second to talk about our sponsor, Sommer Garage Door Openers. In our opinion, Sommers are the highest quality product on the market today. We recommend them for all of our residential garage door installs because of the variety of features they include, such as Wi-Fi connectivity and safety features such as a fixed chain, which moves along a secure rail to ensure your garage door opens quietly and safely. Click on the link in the description to learn more about Sommer Garage Door Openers.
Yeah. Become a better leader for your team, for your family, for yourself. Which one?
Yeah, it's all of the above. And then if I'm going, a couple weeks down the road from that, um, it really resolved with another level of um, self-love and of what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's
Any compassion
acceptance.
there? Did you find compassion?
It's
Self-compassion?
acceptance, it's compassion, it is understanding that, certain events in my life were not my fault and giving me just acceptance of being okay with that. Like
Good for you.
things happen, right? Things happen. We can make meanings around everything, but those meanings are not always correct. And especially with, I mean, what's wild, and I'm sure you know about this, April. Like I'm 48 and I'm still resolving shit from when I was 12 or 8
Yes.
or
For
like,
sure. Maybe even 2 or 3.
or maybe even past lives. Like who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's wild.
It is wild. I'm 49, so I can really resonate with what you're saying in that way. In Chinese medicine, we talk about the law of 7 sevens, where at age 49 is actually a gateway from, transferring from the first half of our lives, where some of us are really focused more on our family that we, our kids or what have you, um, and sort of on cultivating ourselves. Where in the second half of our lives, we might sort of using nature as a mirror. In this, if you think about the seasons, where spring and summer, we're kind of active and doing, where fall and winter, we're sort of going inward. We're starting to restore our energy. Hopefully, that's where a lot of diseases come from. Actually, in my opinion, is that we don't do enough restorative things in the fall to start slowing down in the winter to rest, to prepare us for spring and summer. But spring and summer is more the first half of our lives, that first 7 sevens. And so as we're going through that gateway, we really start questioning our values again and what is important to me. And my back also has been an issue. So I've really been looking at my lower back too. In Chinese medicine, was it your lower back, did you say?
Hmm.
Yeah. So in Chinese medicine, the kidneys, if you will, are a root source of energy, qi, rigor for life, and they rule the lower back and the spine and the bones and our mental capacities and our reproductive system. So when that kidney energy, that root level energy gets tired, like you said, poor sleep is one thing, but usually we're talking about sort of burning the candle at both ends and trying to meet all these demands on our time. And we might be living within our sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, freeze, um, more than integrating our parasympathetic with our sympathetic, that we literally do become weakened in the lower back. We really, and that's the teeter-totter analogy, as you said, is perfect for that because eventually you just reach for something off the shelf and that was it. You're done. And so what does that mean to restore our kidney energy? And we're really being asked at this stage in our lives to look at that differently. It's sort of like going through puberty all over again.
Hmm. Yeah, I can definitely relate to the shifts. two different directions I want to go. I'll stay in the same vein with, no, I think I'm going to shift. So the longevity. One of the things that I've been really curious and interested in is, I got caught up in some of Brian Johnson's stuff and the blue zones, and I'm like, all right, how much of our age is really a thought construct? And with some AI developments and advancement, like is the first 7 just like the halfway point, or is it like a third or a quarter?
Yeah, what is it really, and what does it mean for us in this moment in time? Such a good question. Well, we could have a whole other podcast talking about
I'm
time.
sure. I'm sure.
In our very literal, world that we live where time is linear, 7 sevens applies, but it's a really good question. I'm gonna definitely take some time to consider how that could apply within the idea that maybe time is not linear, which I've been
That's a
thinking
good point.
about a lot lately.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, going back to kind of the beginning of the convo, I mean, everything's energy. I think Einstein saw that, and, quantum physics can pretty much prove it, that things can be
Yes,
light or a physical piece, like, um and so then that puts, time on its head, and it's relative, and we have a relative experience here as humans, and there is a construct to that thinking.
right?
And
Yeah,
I know one thing that gets me a little bit, and I'm not sure what part of me it gets, because I think as long as I'm here, there's more healing, more awareness that occurs. But when I'm hanging out with even 30-year-olds or other 40-year-olds or 50-year-olds or 60-year-olds, and anybody who thinks that they're old, I know that that's just a construct. Like, that is just
it
a
is.
belief.
It really is. We are what we think. We really
We
are
are.
what we think, and we think what we believe. And so going again back to those belief patterns that we've developed over time, um, so important to really take the time to look at that if we care to feel better while we're here. Um, I've certainly seen plenty of people my age who feel like they're 80 or 90. Sometimes I feel like I'm 80 or 90. But, a lot of times I feel like I'm 20. At the end of the day, how we feel right now is largely up to us. And I'm with you. I believe we're here to learn lessons in this human experience and this human body. And as long as I'm here, I have lessons to be learning. And so, in terms of the timeline, and I think about the blue zones too, and I'm guessing those people there for a different reason than what we are here where we
Yeah.
live.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good point. With all your toolkit, um, what have you found to be effective at shifting beliefs? Like, if that's part of the root causes, how do we assist? What's the practical takeaway? What might I do even with my kids or tomorrow morning as far as shifting belief?
One thing we can do is ask ourselves questions, just
Mm,
really starting to develop a sense of curiosity about why we're feeling the way we're feeling. Asking ourselves questions, why do you think that it's important to be a good leader? And I'm asking that for myself because I'm also in the leadership role. What's important to me? Is that where I develop my sense of self-worth as a kid?
sure.
If that's true, then why and how can I sort of reparent myself to understand that I am worth who I am simply by being here and not necessarily having to perform, um, if you will. That's just one example. And two, to ask to question our children. Ask them questions. Why are you feeling the way you're feeling? Um, what beliefs do you think you've developed? Just start asking I didn't think about that when I was a kid, but if think it'd be great to challenge my kids to think about and be curious about the beliefs that they have and why, so that we can really get to know ourselves. And, to answer your question for more deeply, I think, like, for some people, it's prayer, for some people, it's meditation, but taking that time to be still and quiet and move inward. When I first started learning Qigong and Tai Chi, man, as a ballet dancer, I'm also a ballet dancer. That was so weird to me. I'm like, "Okay, this is weird. I don't know about this." I was exposed to it in Chinese medicine school, and we were at a retreat on a mountain, and I just wanted to run right off that mountain. I thought, "This is so bizarre." But it did, as I learned it, it helped me understand my own body's energy. And so when we start really becoming aware of how we're feeling internally and understanding, I'll ask my clients a lot. They'll tell me a story, maybe how they were feeling when a certain trauma happened or a stressor that's going on in their lives. I'll say, where do you feel that in your body? Because when we're able to start drawing a connection between our physical health and how we're feeling physically to our emotions, we can start to move more deeply into where those belief patterns might come from.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of depth right there. Feeling in, communicating with those emotions, um, is a superpower.
It is, and it takes practice just like anything else. In
Mhm.
ballet dancing, I certainly had plenty of time, lots of time at that ballet bar practicing my technique. As an acupuncturist, plenty of time in front of clients practicing the placement of needles and which needles to place. Just like anything else, when to develop our self-awareness takes practice.
Yeah, it sure does. Practice, coaches, mentors, all the
Mentors,
things,
so
all
important,
the
mentors,
things.
yeah.
So important. You mentioned in there identity, and it caught me. I just wanted to bring that up because I think that, I mean, identity is really a bundle of beliefs, bundle of meanings. Um, I know that I've gotten my identity caught up with exterior, outside stuff. Like,
Yeah,
I am cooler. I am
mhm,
whatever's in my bank account. I am X,
right,
Y, and Z.
right.
And it goes back to uh, the other vein I was gonna tag down was like the hustle and grind culture. And you were talking about restorative and how do we get into a place where really what I'm hearing in that is we can receive, whether it's communication from our body or just simple rest. Like how important is that? And and I just wanted to bring those two together because I think it's super interesting. Dads, moms, um, you know, feminine, masculine, like there's identities in those. There's identities in material stuff. Um, and some of the healing, what I'm understanding and gleaning from our conversation is just simply letting that go, finding a practice. I mean, it's all the things of maintaining health, maintaining intention around what we're eating, what we're doing, and then
Yes.
really finding some time to just be pure presence,
Yeah.
whether it's meditation, prayer, rest, yoga, whatever it is, to just be still.
When you speak of these things, it really makes me think of the yin yang symbol with the black
Mhm.
and white, the swirls. And if you notice, there's a white dot within the black and a black within the white. And yin energy does speak to, you mentioned receiving. It tends to be more female energy. It's downward. It's nighttime. It's the winter time. It is restorative time. In our bodies, it's things like blood and the myelin sheath around the nerve and synovial fluid and things estrogen does in the body. Where conversely, yang energy is more male energy. It's during the day, it's light, it's summertime, it's our body's chi. It's what happens with the ATP, is productive energy. And we actually want those two things even in the body at all times. Um, but we do happen to live in a culture where we do value more yang energy. And so just that simple concept alone of understanding we actually can't have effective yang energy without also cultivating the yin energy. And then we can't have great yin energy without cultivating the yang energy either. And so when we're talking about how to restore balance in each of those areas, we can actually incorporate yin and yang energy into each of those. What we're eating, our activity level, um, our productivity, our playtime, our rest time. It all can be seen through the lens of the yin yang symbol.
Yes. That's my first tattoo.
Oh,
Of
really?
a yin
That's
yang
really
on
cool.
on my back.
Wow, awesome. I love that. Is it in your lower back or your upper back?
It's on well, it's not so low that it's a stamp, but it's on my lower back.
I think it's, I think that, that's, so appropriate for us just talking about your back pain.
It's
You can just bring
hilarious.
it right back to that tattoo and you're good.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably is right at that C4, like
Yeah.
uh,
Absolutely.
that's amazing. This conversation's been really, really fun. As we start putting little bow ties on this, I guess I would love some practical types of stuff. So if you were to oh, I can't I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this too. You mentioned the, art of questions, and I think that is so poignant, especially with AI, ChatGPT. I mean, you're talking prompts and what's happening in the space, and I use ChatGPT all the time, and it's improving my prompts, improving my questions. I think it's maybe as Tony Robbins, like the quality of your questions impact the quality of your life. I mean, it's just so timely. I just had to emphasize that because
Wow. Yeah.
the art of questions is so key to how we define meaning. And I think it's an incredible skill set to have, especially as AI bubbles up more and more, because it does come down to the prompts.
That's, I've been questioning, AI a lot lately, and I actually didn't even know ChatGPT until very recently. And it's really amazing what it can do. And as someone who appreciates grammar, I'm like, wow, wow, they Chappy, they know grammar, and so
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
then I don't know if it's my ego or me being more practical and thinking, but I feel like that's an important skill for us to all know. Certainly to develop our own questioning, our own line of questioning. So I'm thinking, okay, there's value in having help probably and developing those questions because maybe that will help us spiritually evolve faster. I see that possibility. It kind of creates room, that space for healing that I was talking about. I can see that. And yet I see the possible pitfalls. It's a paradox where we want to be able to think for ourselves too. And so, boy, we're in an interesting time that way.
A fascinating time. Fascinating. Um, all right. One of my final questions. We're getting towards the tail end, so we'll put some bows on the convo. But I don't know if you can truly do this because we've already mentioned, health is so relative. Each person is on their own journey. But I'm curious if we could bullet point like top three, top five for listeners. Like what's on your list as far as priorities for taking care of health?
When we are so tired, that we can't think clearly for ourselves, that's when we're gonna reach for those potato chips instead of taking the time to make a meal, or we're gonna be mindlessly going through our day and more apt to get injured. And even that serves its purpose, right? Um, but just learning to just be quiet and take in that yin energy right now is what I'm seeing as a practitioner super important for my clients and myself, just to take time to be quiet, quiet the mind. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. Like, I don't know how to meditate. I don't, just take some minutes to, have gratitude for what's around you and think about, it's so great you can breathe and that hopefully can walk and and even if you can't walk, you can breathe and you have people who can help you walk. And just taking the time to be grateful and helps restore that yin energy. And then after that, it is important to find a mentor. We brought that up briefly, but reach out for help. There's strength in reaching out for help. Look for someone that you resonate with out in the healthcare community and jump in and just do something, instigate some sort of change for yourself. If you find yourself sort of stuck in a rut and just going through the same patterns over and over again, just try one thing different. And, often that could be, seeking out the help of a practitioner who can be a little bit more objective for you in that moment to help guide you. That's another thing that I would highly recommend people do as well, where we, again, strike that balance between going inward and going outward. That's a really, really good thing. After that, that's, eating from the earth, super important. I really like to encourage people to eat food that comes from Mother Nature herself, rather than a lot of those processed foods that we see out there in the world. And yeah, from there, movement and breath. And I think I got 5 in that.
Love it. Love it. Those are good ones. April, for folks that want to learn more, follow you, learn from you, get mentored, where do we find you?
Oh, thank you so much. So, definitely you can find me through Healing Horizons Integrated Health Solutions, and you probably will drop that information. And then I also started a new endeavor called Mother Nature's Doctor, and I'll be offering coursework through there and my own podcasts. Maybe we can reciprocate this so you can be a guest on my podcast. I would love that.
Amazing. I also want to emphasize, you are an author. Save Your Life Now is your book.
Right. Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
I wrote that book, Save Your Life Now, Your Health is in Your Hands. 6 years ago now, and
Awesome.
it still holds pretty true. I could write another edition and add some deeper thinking into that now, but it
Bet.
does encompass my views on health, integrative medicine, and the power of collaboration too.
Love it. Love it. And you are right. For listeners, if you want any of these details, we'll have all the links in our show notes. And I encourage you to reach out if you're here in Grand Junction. Go check out the space. It's a nice space. You've got a lot of practitioners in there.
Yes.
It's not just
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that's right. There's several of us from different modalities, and we collaborate for each person because each of us is different. We're certainly individual people who require different needs at different times. So that's our focus at Healing Horizons for sure.
Yeah, it's got a depth to the toolkits.
Yes.
Wonderful. April, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for a really enlightening and informative conversation today.
And I appreciate you too so much, and wish you the most beautiful spring day ever.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it if you would help us continue the momentum that we have in subscribing, sharing, and liking our show. Let's extract really cool conversations with amazing people that are out crafting amazing businesses, relationships, lifestyles. So let's grow this thing together, and just know that you are appreciated.